Okay, so we are going live. Okay, we're live. So today's Rambam is about the mitzvah of learning Torah. If anybody was wondering why we're so lucky that we are, what in today's day and age, I don't know how to say this, but what's good about being a man? All the benefits go to the woman. So there's one benefit that we have is that we have a special mitzvah that we have to learn Torah every day, which means you can't waste a second of our day learning Torah. Because there's three parts to learning Torah. One is that we have to know what to do. Number two, we have to learn every single mitzvah in the Torah, which that is what it says in Rambam, all the 613 mitzvahs. Then there is the last part of the mitzvah is that we can't go a second of the day without learning Torah, any spare second, because it's Hashem's wisdom, and it's different than all the mitzvahs of the Torah. All the mitzvahs of the Torah, what's the relationship with Hashem? It's like we're getting hugged by Hashem. Hashem's surrounding us. When we learn Torah, Hashem is in us. Not only surrounds us, but He goes inside our brain, inside our heart. Now, of course, women, it's a mitzvah for them to learn Torah. No question about it. No, I was sort of trying to make everybody listen. They said something mean. Of course, women, but when they learn when they learn Torah, they're doing, let's say, they learn Hilchos Shabbos. So they're learning Torah. They're doing the mitzvah of Shabbos when they're learning about the mitzvah. So of course they're connecting with God, no question about it. The male has a special mitzvah of learning Torah. Now, in the mitzvah of Torah, there's two aspects: you have to learn and you have to respect a Talmid Chacham. So, a mother doesn't have as much responsibility as the father that the kids must learn Torah. Every kid, you have to know Torah. They have to know the whole Torah. Every single mitzvah, it's a mitzvah to know. So if you don't know all the 630 mitzvahs, don't worry, I don't know them either. It's not good enough. You have to know every single one. So when you turn 13, if you don't know the mitzvahs, it's not okay. Especially if you know what to do, right? You have to know how to put on tefillin, how to keep Shabbos. So therefore, it's a mitzvah for every single parent to teach their children, but not only the parents, also the rabbis and also the teachers. If you know something that someone else doesn't know, you have a mitzvah to teach them. It says, "V'shinantam levanecha," and what does that mean? Eilu hatalmidim. Those are the students. It says two places in the Torah. One place it says teach your kids, means your physical kids, and then another place it says teach your kids, means your students. Students are like children, which means you have a responsibility, just like a parent has responsibility to teach the kids. The rabbis and whoever knows something someone else doesn't know, you have a responsibility also to teach them. You know Aleph, teach Aleph. Now let's say the problem is like this. You didn't know anything about Judaism. You grew up in South Africa. You don't know anything. You come to Miami. You happen to check in Chabad Chayil, and you realize, oh my gosh, there's a Torah, there's mitzvahs. Problem is, you're 50 years old, and then you have children. So who comes first, you or your child? So in general, what's the halacha? You come first. But let's say your child, his brain, there's no one like his brain. He sits and he learns Torah. If you give him the right rabbis and the right schools, by age 13, he'll know the whole Torah. So then we make an exception. You should go and you should make sure first your son learns. Then you can go learn. But in general, you come first. Before you get married, you should try to learn as much as Torah as possible before you get married. Because, but if your Yetzer Hara is if you really, really want to get married, then we say, okay, you know what, get married and try to learn Torah after. Huh? Get married to the Yetzer Hara. No. Now, when does someone have to teach his son Torah? Every day, but what age? As soon as he's able to say a word, he has to teach him. Torah tziva lanu Moshe is a pasuk. Torah tziva lanu Moshe Moshe Kilas Yaakov. Shema Yisrael Anei Eloheinu Anei Echad. These two psukim but in general, right when he started talking, they start training him. The Rebbe said the 12 psukim, the first two, Torah and Shema. And every Chabadnik, they tell their kids from when they're little kids, Torah, Siva, because that's what you have to teach them. Okay. Now, what happens if you're working all day? You can't teach your son. What do? You hire, but let's say he takes money. Too bad. You gotta pay. It's a mitzvah. You have to pay money to teach your child that your son should learn Torah. By the way, it says in the Rambam that you're not allowed to take money to learn Torah Shabbat. So in kids in school, they teach them Chumash. The written Torah, that you could get paid. Torah Shabbat, like what I'm teaching you now, it says in the Rambam, also you can't get paid. What happens if for some reason, no, everybody wants to take money, they're not ready to teach you without, then you should pay them. But when you teach, you should not take any money for teaching Torah Shabbat. I'm assuming there must be a reason why teachers take money, but in the Rambam it says
why school take.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even Tzedakah, I guess. Now listen, it's connected to what we said before. We're really against women. This I'm not doing good today. It says you have to learn Torah if you're poor, you're rich. It says you have to learn Torah even if you have a lot of pain, you have a lot of yisurim, a lot of sicknesses. Even if you're very old. Even if you're taking money from the show, you have no money for yourself, you still learn Torah. Even if you have a wife and kids, even then you still have to learn Torah by day and by night. Yeah.
1 minute before you passed away, you have to.
Right, and it says they went to Chassid, he was sick, and he was his students came to visit him. He had a very big sickness, something with his liver. So they said, "What are you thinking about?" So he's deep thinking. He's like, "I'm thinking about how Hashem is creating every second a sick liver." So even in his sickness, he was making sure to learn to think. Okay, now for your information, there were great Torah scholars that were wood choppers. It wasn't a prestigious job, chopping wood. Water carriers, which was also a very hard job to do. They did not, and they still learned Torah. They became sages, right? So they, of course, learned a lot of Torah and taught a lot of Torah. Some of them were sick. Some of them were blind. They learned by day and by night, and they are the ones that gave over the Torah from generation to generation until us. So the ones that gave it from God to Moses to Yeshua. Next one, water carrier. You don't need to be someone which everybody's bowing down to and say, "Oh, I'm a big rabbi. I'm going to learn Torah." Even if you're nobody sitting in the corner, you have to work, right? You can't be lazy. Okay. Till when? What happens if you have a photographic memory? You read the whole Torah. You know the whole Torah. You know the whole mission. You know everything. You have to learn till the day you pass away. It says you can't. It's according to some opinions, not the Rambam. It's an avera to forget something you learned. An avera. It says it's as if you're chayiv misa, as if you're. Yes, pentishka. So now, of course, if you try hard and you forget anyways, if by accident it's not doing an avera. But if someone's too lazy and he's not reviewing because he's too lazy, it's an avera. Now, according to other opinions, according to Rambam, the Rambam says it's part of the mitzvah of learning Torah. What did you say?
What's the punishment for this?
No. It's as if he's chayiv misa. Now, in general, the rule is you have to have 3/3. 1/3 learning Torah, 1/3 written Torah, 1/3 oral Torah, 1/3 pilpul, learning from one part to another part. So until you get to know the whole Rambam by heart, you have to learn all the halachas. So before you learn, only 1/3 of the day the Rambam says you should learn Gemara, pilpul, ask questions and look at this, analyze. 1/3 of the day you have to learn the written Torah, and 1/3 of the day laws. After you finish them, you know them by heart. Then you go do the whole day pilpul, but you always have to review because you can't forget one halacha. Remember. Now, what does this mean? He says practically. He says, let's say you work 3 hours a day, okay, and learn Torah 9 hours a day. So he says 3 hours a day you learn written Torah, 3 hours a day you learn oral Torah, and 3 hours a day you look at one part, you analyze, look one law, other law. Why is this like this? Why is this like that? You think about it. You go into depth, and also learning Kabbalah, secrets of Hashem. That also goes in this category of analyzing God and His creations. What happens if a woman learns Torah? Today, the Rebbe is all out that women should learn as much Torah as possible, and especially, by the way, learning Chassidus, secrets of the mystic Kabbalah, men and women are equal. Because why do we learn? To love Hashem. A woman.
Are they allowed to learn Kabbalah, you know?
100%, because they have to love Hashem just like we have to love Hashem. They have to fear Hashem just like we. And by the way, women are better at loving Hashem than men. So for them, Kabbalah is even more important. And like I said, also for them, they have to learn about all the laws they have to do, and they have to learn Torah. And it's a great zchus. But however, Judaism doesn't believe that men and women are exactly the same. We believe that we're different and we complete each other. So some mitzvahs the woman has, like having a baby, we can't do that. Feeding the baby, we can't do that. Other mitzvahs, believing in Hashem, which actually they're better than us. And then there's mitzvahs that we have and we complete them, which is the mitzvah of learning Torah. The man has a mitzvah to learn Torah every second of the day. He can know the whole Torah, he still has to learn again. If you're a genius, you're photographic memory, you know every single word, not enough. You have to learn again and again, right? And what's about the wife, right? It's not like she doesn't have a part. A wife, it says a woman, if she's married and she has kids, so the Torah her husband learns, the Torah her child learns, because of course it's impossible to do without their inspiration. It's as if they're doing it. It says you get the reward God gives to learning Torah, half gets the man and half gets the woman. If she inspires the husband, right? If she takes the kids to school, inspires them to learn, and like the Rebbe says, if the woman doesn't know Torah, how is she going to inspire the kids to learn Torah? So of course women have to learn Torah, right? And if the child comes home and he has homework with Gemara, of course she has to help them learn, right? And therefore they get half. It's as if they're learning it. Again, it's the same, but right, like it says, if somebody makes a deal with somebody else, listen, you learn all day, I'll support you. So it says they split, but I think it's even more than Zvulun. Because a husband and wife is one thing. They complete each other. Ashlimin says that they're two halves, right? So when one learns Torah, it's like as if the wife's learning Torah. That's a big mistake that people make these days. They think that how to make everything perfect, how to take away the concept of controlling and people in charge. Equality. What equality? If every person has different needs, equality, right? You can't make a basketball game between my baby and then Shunya, right? He'll be, or I'm saying you have to have. My point is equality, making everybody equal. Everybody has different needs. How could everyone be equal, right? So obviously, what's the real way of making everything in peace, making shalom bayis, peace in the home, peace in the world, when everybody does their part, right? So it doesn't mean that the wife has to be home all day. It just means that in society, in every single place we're in, each one has their part, and they fill a hole. Right? If two people are the same, why should they get married? It's like, why should you have two kings of the same country? There's no reason. There ever was any time in history two kings of the same country. No. Why is no two kings? Why isn't two presidents? Because if it ever happened, maybe it was for a few hours, right? One of them killed the other one. The only way it's possible to have shalom bayis, peace in the home, is when each one has a different job, and each one can't do their part without the other one, and that makes shalom bayis. And that's why some things is our mitzvah, and our mitzvah we have a special mitzvah of learning Torah. But in the context of connecting with Hashem, we're equal. When a woman learns Torah, when a man learns Torah, we connect to Hashem. Connect to Hashem means that we know what Hashem knows. Let's say when you want to marry somebody, what do people do? They don't play basketball. They have a conversation. What do you like? What you don't like? So you want to figure the person out before you marry them because you want to know who you're going to marry, right? So Hashem, he wrote a whole book. It's in here. What he likes and what he doesn't like. You want to get to know him? Read the book, right? So what do you mean you get to know him? When you just, he likes this, he doesn't like that. He likes pizza, he doesn't like French fries. No, you get to know his personality. You get to know someone, what they like, what they don't like. You connect with them. So when any single, especially Jew, but you know what? Even a non-Jew, Non-Jews also have to learn Torah because they have 7 mitzvahs, right? And you have not only they have to learn Torah, we have an obligation to teach the non-Jews about their 7 mitzvahs. So you have to go to a non-Jew and tell them, you know what? There's Hashem, like Avram Avinu. You know, there's Hashem, and that Hashem, He takes care of you. He feeds you. If you steal, He's upset at you. If you're kind, He's happy with you. When a non-Jew learns Torah, maybe even he gets a little taste of what we get. Maybe even he also connects to Hashem, right? So why? Because Hashem gave us His Torah. He gave it all the way from up there, pushed it down there, that our brain over here can connect with His brain. So it's not a small deal. We shouldn't think, oh, we have nothing to do with our lives. No, this is the greatest opportunity. No mitzvahs like this, that we can really connect and get to know Hashem and become like Him. Okay, let's move on. It's an obligation as a society. We don't believe in Judaism. We don't believe. Some people think that the way the world should run is that every person should mind their own business. Every person should just be in their own country. What do they call it? Anarchy, whatever. No, we believe in a society. Everyone has to help each other. Like I said before, everyone has to fill each other. So every single country, every single city has to make a Jewish school. It says these words. This is what it says. I don't think it ever happened in history, but it says a city which doesn't make a school should be destroyed.
Jewish.
A Jewish school should be destroyed. It says because the world doesn't exist. There's no continuation of the world without kids learning the words of Torah. Right. Like Ami's saying that it's a long story. I'll tell you in short. So the tribes came to Moshe and they said, "Let's build for our cattle and then we'll build for our kids." He's like, "Hello, you don't know money and then kids coming for everything. The first thing is making a school. That when you go to and you're looking to moving to a new place, you look, what are the schools? What's the school situation? I have children. I need to educate my kids. What age? Rambam says in the halacha, from 6-year-old and on, you have to teach him Torah. It says the teachers have to be strict, because if they won't be strict, the kids won't listen. But they have to be careful when they're strict with them, not to be mean. How do you say it in English? Being coming from bad place. You should be coming from a place of kindness. You care for the kid. And he should realize that you're not doing it because you're mean or because you have anger in your heart, but you're doing it because you actually care for them. It says he has to learn. Kids must learn all day. I don't know which kids were alive in the times of the Rambam, but all day and a little bit part of the night, 24/7. Besides Erev Shabbos and Yom Tov. So Erev Shabbos and Yom Tov. I'm not sure if it means the whole Friday or only half of the Friday, second half. Friday and Yom Tov, the holidays. On Shabbos, they should be a little easy on the kids. They shouldn't learn new things. They should review. So kids should be learning all day. I'm sure they had recess in those days too. But what happens with a teacher that is not so passionate in teaching the kids? He's doing it because he has no other job. It says, curses the man who takes God's work with trickery. So someone which is a teacher must be someone which is very energetic and passionate. You can't get someone which is passive and is careless. If the kids make a mistake, don't make a mistake. It says there were actually teachers in the times of the temple which were punished severely if they taught kids, if the kids came out mispronouncing the Torah. In these days, you only have one guy in the shul that knows how to read the Torah. In the times of the temple, every kid needs to know how to read the Torah. If the kid couldn't open the ark and read the Torah for himself, the teacher would get punished. Yeah. Now here it says halacha. I'm not sure how we work with this today. If someone is not married, he should not be a teacher because the mothers come and take the kids, and a woman also should not teach the kids because the parents. I'm sure these days we have maybe it meant in the private home. I'm not sure what this application of that law is. The Rambam says, interestingly, it says how many kids can fit in the class. So it says 25 kids. More than 25, you can't have. You have an assistant teacher. 40 kids, you have to have 2 teachers already. I think in these days, the kids' attention span, you have to minus it to 10. Okay. What happens if you hear of a better school? Take them to the better school. It says in the olden days, let's say one school is a little bit dangerous to go. If it's going over a bridge, if it's a little bit dangerous. So go to the worst school. Don't put your son in danger. What happens if somebody wants to wants to open a school in a residential area? So the residents say you're making traffic, the kids are running in the playground. Too bad. When it comes to Jewish schools, you can't say anything. You can make it wherever you want. What happens if you have a school and there's somebody in the school decides, you know what, I'm finished with this school. This is a bad school. I'm making my own school. Next door. What's the halacha? In general, in Torah law, like I said, a Talmid Chacham doesn't pick a job that somebody else has because he might get offended. He might bother him, right? So you can't just take, if someone is the only plumber in town and there's not enough work for 2 people, you can't take a job. So what's the law? It says when it comes to Jewish schools, this law doesn't exist. Build 20 schools in the same block. And these days, I don't know, people for some reason don't understand this law. Huh? Even shuls, right? We have on this block, we have a shul. It doesn't say that in today's Rambam, but it says over here, even if some kids are moving from that school to that school, too bad. You can't complain. When it comes to Torah learning, the more the better. Everyone have a good night.